Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Two Legs. This is episode number 222. Yes, you heard that right. 222, as in the song On Memory Almost Full, which my friend here on screen said he just loves that song, and we'll get to him in a second. My name is Andy Nichols. I'm one of the co-hosts of Two Legs, and you're going to notice that my other co-host and partner in crime is not here today. So filling in for him, Mr. Tom Hunyadi, is one of the original co-founders of Two Legs, Mr. David Gargalino. Welcome, David.
Hey, Andy. How's it going?
Very good, and thanks for pitch hitting for your cuz and stepping up to the plate this week.
Happy to help.
Yeah, and you are watching at home, folks. It is football season, so yes, that's why we're rocking the Giants. They are playing later today. By the time this goes out, I'll either be angry or happy. Probably angry, given on how week one went, but we are happy, and I know that David's got Detroit on the background, right?
Yeah.
A big Lions fan with that week one win over Kansas City. Good on you guys. And of course, you have a coach who was a Giant, so that's why.
Yeah, I'm happy for the fan base. I've always been a Fairweather fan because he couldn't be so emotionally involved without being depressed all those years. But I'm happy for the team.
Yep. So on today's show, we're going to kind of just do a little bit of everything. We're going to talk about David's background, his interests, and then really kind of just talk about like favorite lineups of McCartney that he's had over the years. Nothing really too focused, just something, just to kind of catch up with David. It's been a while. He has been on Two Legs, previously on some shows we've done, some live things we've done, but he actually hasn't been on probably since I've been a part of it, probably in a while.
2 years. I think we did McCartney 3 album review with Dylan.
With Dylan, and we did. So, yeah, it's good to have you back on again. So,
thank you.
David, why don't you give everybody who might be new to the channel a little bit of your backstory on, your fandom, linking up with Tom, and, how you guys started the show.
It's a lot.
If you can condense it.
Oh, my Beatles fandom goes back to, as far as I can remember, maybe 3 or 4 years old, discovering my mom's Chipmunk Sings the Beatles. So I played the crap out of that on my little play school record player. And then I got into an Elvis phase, which I'm kind of swinging around back into it now. But so from like age 5 to like 9, my parents were like, why does he like Elvis? And then, but the Beatles were kind of like always in the background of my life, through my dad and all that. And then the anthology came around in 95. Or the BBC sessions I was kind of aware of when I was like 10 or 11 years old. So that was kind of the start of like the resurgence of like the archives getting released for Apple and all of them. And just dove headfirst in the anthology, and then, the Flaming Pie thing that came after that. And so that's how I kind of got into the McCartney thing. So since 94, 95, I've been pretty hardcore,
And you and I have a little bit of an age difference. I'm a little older than you.
A few years, yeah.
But that is same era, man.
We experienced the same thing.
That same time, that 94, 95, 96, 97 period is where it was like ignition, go.
I loved VH1, then I have so many VHSs that I recorded a lot of those shows. I mean, they kind of helped just kind of perpetuate, after the anthology, and I just loved those shows. So,
did you then spend some time like doing a rabbit hole with McCartney specifically around that time too, and going back?
I discovered my dad's McCartney album, so I discovered all my dad's Beatle albums. So a lot of them were the American ones. I think he bought in the early 70s because they were the Capitol Rainbow labels. They weren't the originals. But yeah, I discovered the McCartney album, and then I think he had the Band on the Run. I might have bought Band on the Run and kind of loved the American version. So in my middle school years, those were like the two key albums I kept listening to. Which they're seminal albums, but I kind of burned myself on Band on the Run. So, but it's been maybe 5 to 10 years since I really delved into Band on the Run. So if they do a release or some special thing this year, maybe it'll kind of get me back into that album. But
You didn't jump on board with the archive edition when it came out in 2010?
I did. I bought the 2-disc at Best Buy. They had like a bonus DVD at the time. That book was kind of out of my price range, and it eventually came down. I was able to pick it up a few years later. But,
Yeah, hard to come by now.
Oh, all that stuff is. Even up to Flaming Pie a few years ago. I mean, if you didn't capture some of those, then you're kind of out of luck with your wallet.
Yeah.
Because I think I love the format of the books up until like 2015, where they were. I mean, I think Tug of War and Pipes of Peace. I mean, they were like $55 sets
At the time, and that at the time you're like, well, that's a lot of money. I mean, when you think about it, but and our friend Beatly Tone he's done some great videos, explaining and illustrating the up price and how much they've skyrocketed and what their value, what they were street date, what they are, here we are 10, 11, 12 years later. So you think about it, man, that's $60 at the time. I think that's what Band on the Run went for. And now it's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I'm probably holding on to like $2,000 worth of his sets, I got one back here that you see. It's kind of on this different shelf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Got very lucky on that. And all my other stuff's in my other room.
Yeah.
They're great archives. I wish they were a little bit deeper on the outtakes. So maybe the next
they're
round.
not. They're so great in photographic content and photos of the period, and if you like the memorabilia stuff, well, you look at it once or twice. The reproduction of the lyrics, which is cool, but they really need to be a little bit better on the audio. And your best bang for your buck with that, I always say, is McCartney 2 with that.
Oh yeah, the bonus stuff, the bonus discs, and I mean that was, but he kind of kicked off as one of the solo Beatles for that archive stuff. Then the kind of the Lennon folks have always been generous, but you didn't think there was going to be much after the Lennon anthology in '98, and then and then the remixes came out, and you had a couple tracks here and there, and then you're like, oh wow, like just a few years ago with the Imagine box set and Plastic Ono, you're like, wow, you could do a lot with these archives.
It's just so much. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this morning over text about just the onslaught of releases from 2017 to now. It is ridiculous.
It's slowed down right now, and maybe that's the calm before a bigger storm. But you almost maybe you could appreciate, you could go back to the Pepper box set and read into those books and listen to the outtakes and there's so much. We've been spoiled, and then I think that's why it kind of like you kind of almost expect it every year around this time now, the fourth quarter. Like, what else is coming out? But there's got to be stuff. There's stuff going in the background with like Peter Jackson. They got him on board,
and as Tom and I have always said, we're not gonna, we'll react to it when it's here, and that's it. And I know the anticipation's crazy for all everybody wants everything all the time, but slow is okay after the last couple of years. I don't, 2022 with just Revolver was fine. That's okay,
Yeah. But they're a business, so they got to plan ahead the next 10, 15 years, and they can't just dump it all on us in the next couple. So I get it from that, and that's where I delve into the different world of outtakes, and that I'm fine. But I think you need both of that to get the whole picture, and so that's another hobby of mine. So I guess going back in the Beatles, the anthology was kind of like my baptism into the Beatles world. And at the time, I didn't realize, these are different outtakes in the records, because my aunt around 95 gave me all her original American stuff. So I think she had an American Hard Day's Night soundtrack, and then Meet the Beatles, and then the U.S. album, what was it called? It was an exclusive on CD 10 years ago. The double album.
The Beatles
Story. I have that on original vinyl.
Yeah.
And so I'm listening to some of the stuff. I'm like, that sounds different than what I'm hearing in the anthology. And now I'm reading the book. I'm like, it's different takes. So I think because the anthology kind of piqued my interest on the outtakes. Like I've heard 28 years later, I've heard the originals so many times. So I'm always like, dude, I want to hear like what came before that, the outtakes sessions. And so that's what I love about the Beatle remix issues is the outtake stuff.
Do you feel that there is a part of the business that is just like, you know what, we have all this stuff. We know that the physical buying market, people, the people buying this physical media, that's going to be coming, to an end as people just get older and stuff, and we have to just throw all this stuff out now. I mean, like you and I were growing up, it would have been nice to have like 15 years ago the Plastic Ono Band box. Like we would have killed for that. And not that we don't now. It's just there is so much in all these sets that years go by before you even get a chance to look at them. I had a conversation with a colleague who's a Beatle fan too, who's been on the show, and he's like, yeah, I haven't even had a chance to finish the Revolver book or anything,
Yeah, I guess you got to like kind of part out some time, when you had the free time just to open it up and kind of just absorb into it. And I read through it quickly because some of the stories I've heard before, but like you try to find those nuggets of new information. And I mean, literally, the Beatles story is never going to be fully told because the moment you think you know everything, you get like a Yellow Submarine, demo stuff with John and Paul.
John doing it, right.
Without the story of like, oh yeah, I fell asleep and I had this song in my head. But like, yeah, he might have, but then John juxtaposed that with like a really darker kind of, side to it. And so it was a real collaborative effort. And then I'm kind of looking on YouTube these days now, you're like seeing stuff you haven't seen before that's getting out there. And hearing that Apple has a treasure trove underground of all this stuff. The story will never be fully told until I think 100 years from now when we're not going to be around. But
no,
there's still unreleased video and audio out there. But they're a business. They can't just, I don't know. They're like, we got to make this thing make sense from a product.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have so many plans and projections for 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. What's their model going to be? I mean, once all the Beatles are gone, how does that legacy remain and relevant if they still want to make it obviously a business and how? I mean, obviously the power is always in the music because that's what keeps people coming back. But how do they take that and turn it into something that when we're 70 years old and there's 40-year-olds, how are they appealing to them?
Yeah. So I think right now is the critical time from a physical media standpoint because people are willing to spend that money to fill your bookshelves.
Yes, they are.
And
but they look at David's he's got a Beatles and mono box set. Now that is all
right. So I got that 5 years ago.
That is a item.
I got it for like $277 on eBay. I sold a whole bunch, some stuff. Got funny money, I call it. But when this came out, I think it might have been $199 or $229. But you get a book and you get like 14 slabs of vinyl. Like the Revolver set, the vinyl was like almost $200 just for 5 discs. So this was a special release, I think, in 2014. They really came back in my mind because all they did was kind of re-release the '09 remasters and slip disc of the American track listing and covers. And I was like,
wait, you talking about the U.S. albums? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh,
I didn't find that to be like, I got to get that because I already have the audio. That's how it was supposed to be. And they just repackaged
the U.S. album. There's that Echo coming back. Why?
It got Dexterized.
See, we're talking about the American albums, and the Echo came in. That U.S. albums was such a. They improved the cover artwork. Like again, Dave, stop coming in here. They improved the artwork, like the spines and the inserts, which they improved upon from that 04 and 06 when they did the Capitol albums.
Oh, I love that release.
But that was authentic.
Yeah, mixes.
That's what it's supposed to be. That's what the U.S. albums should have been.
So maybe in the 60th anniversary, they released the real mixes and vinyl, clean presses. I don't know if I would go after it, but I think it would be a valid release for the American market.
You're talking about releasing the American albums again with
on vinyl
with the original mixes that were done.
Correct.
That would be a
all
good
warts
project.
and everything.
All were as they were issued in the 60s.
Basically, take the 04, 06 releases and put them on
vinyl. That would be one hell of a project, man. I mean, and I think they would do it. That would be awesome to have 180 gram pressings of those Capitol albums.
Because the Beatles have to think, unless the Apple heads have to think, it is a worthwhile project. They did it in 04, 06, and 2014. Even though those mixes were more homogenized with the 87 and 09 remasters. Yes. But they know that's the American market. That's how people that were around heard them. So it's not like they deleted it after 87,
No.
It's still been in their back pocket.
It's in their back pocket, sitting on it. And obviously it's like those 04, 06 box sets, though. That was like a very quiet release. There was not a... Right?
Yeah,
remember, it was not a huge thing.
So I used to follow the Abbey Road news page or something that was Steve Marinucci and I'm not sure if Ken Michaels is part of that, or the Macca Report was one of my go-tos, and that's how I got my news. I didn't follow the Hoffman Forum then, but it seemed
not like you do now.
Yeah, so it seemed. It was a quiet release. I remember it was kind of like the calm before the love storm,
Yeah.
So, and then they stopped it after 06.
Right, but that... sorry, folks, we have the echo that likes to come in and out for some reason on my microphone. Like we're listening to WCBS FM 101.1 in New York, as it used to be. If it happens, it happens. But, those sets were reproduced the right way. I love listening to the 04, 06s. Again, audio-wise, they were not packaged. Like they did the right job visually in 14 by reproducing the spines and having the sleeves and everything. But you put them on and you're hearing the 09 masters in that track order. It's like, what are you doing?
It's just like you just rearranged the track listing and
made
you bought it again.
Yeah, you made a playlist. Yeah. You made a playlist and just did it that way. But I mean, think about having like things like Hey Jude on 180 gram vinyl, like done the right. That would be Beatles 6 and Meet the Beatles all done again or the Beatles second album. That's something they could really tap into. They really could.
So like during the anthology, that's what I was going after. That's all I had at some of the record stores was the American albums, and they were like at the time they were like $5 to $6. So
cheap.
As a 12-year-old kid that cut lawn once a month, got paid once a month for lawn cutting, that worked. The vinyl. Because vinyl wasn't very big in the 90s. The revival was CD, and so you could get a lot of used stuff for cheap.
Yeah, the CDs would cost you
$20,
maybe $15, $20 for a disc.
Oh,
and the vinyl you could get dirt cheap. Now it's flipped, and the used CDs now are like they're
pennies.
giving them away,
yeah.
pennies.
Yeah,
you go to any decent record store, $1, $2, $3, and you can make a killing on CDs now.
And that's why I have so many shelves for CDs. To me, that's still a viable medium for me personally. That's how I enjoy a lot of stuff. But
you will play it physically. You'll get it out and play it on your system.
Because it's like pulling out a book you haven't read, and I get the technology is so like instant, and I got to separate that for me.
Yes.
That's my hang up. That's my old man kind of.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, the music's music, and that's what matters, and it doesn't matter. I mean, but I still pay for it. And I think I still pay for it, like, that's I think, the business model is going to stay around as long as there's a market to buy it.
Yeah.
They might not be pressing as much.
That number is going to have to go down. It's just, it's not going to, they're not going to make as much quantity of this stuff. They're just not going to do it.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the backlog is from a chain perspective, but like I know some McCartney releases recently kind of squashed the other bands to produce vinyl. I mean, there must be like maybe 20 record plant pressings in the world. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out, but like it seems like you could slow the chain down from one artist.
From one artist, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
McCartney 3 campaign.
the third man pressings. I mean, you think about somebody like that and him, and then the demand for the smaller artists, to try to. And Tom has always talked about that too. It's just there's such a wait for that stuff these days.
Yeah.
for vinyl. So talk to us about starting Two Legs.
Yeah,
and how that came about.
So Tom, I think, kind of connected to me in maybe 2010, maybe around my passing my dad, and we just kind of just started texting each other. And I remember him growing up, but he was just, I mean, being the 11-year age gap as a kid, he might have been 30 years older than me. You know, then you're like, oh, we weren't really that much older, but so we just texting about music, other bands, the Beatles, of course, because him and his uncle are. I didn't realize I was in my own world. I thought I had in my own world of the family, like, maybe I'm the biggest Beatle fan. I'm like, no, I got cousins on my dad's side, like, are bigger Beatle fans. And he's like, man, it'd be really cool if we just got together and talked about it on a podcast. So that was maybe like 2014, 2015. Sure, why not? You know, and he kept pushing it. He kept kind of bringing it up. I'm like, all right, let's try it out. But I had in my mind my own stipulations. I didn't really want to be on video at the time, and I couldn't look too far out into the future on the project. So we started in 2016. So it's been 7 years last month. So, I mean, we're only a few years away from 10 years of Two Legs. So it's weird to think about that.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah. So, I kind of had a couple names. It was Two Legs or Talk More Talk. And we were like, well, which one do you like? And so we agreed on Two Legs because it was just us, a play on 3 legs.
Mm-hmm.
And we used Skyped audio, which was a convenient. I mean, Skype seems so archaic, right? I don't know if it's even used as a video platform.
I think it still is.
But so I could be in my PJs anytime. Usually we did like Sunday night, and we just hit the record button, and we'd upload it to Podbean. Was our kind of our main source.
It was an audio only thing back then.
Yeah, and we were pretty content. It was easy to deal with the audio rather than video, and we were getting eventually guests that Tom now works with. So it worked at the time. It probably seems a little archaic now. I don't know how many just audio only podcasts there are.
A decent amount.
Okay.
Did you have to do a lot of sweetening in the recordings to improve the audio, or no?
Yeah, sometimes if his side or my side would drop with the internet, it would cut out. I mean, like Tom has brought up, our first guest was Kit, and I think I did 200 to 300 edits because so when he called in or we called, there was only 2 sides of Skype audio. It was my side, and it'd be Tom, and I think the conference call guest would be on Tom's side of the audio. So it wasn't like I could split 3 audios out of it. It was only 2. So if he was cutting out and the guest is on that, I'm like, I got a lot of work to do. So it got better, I think, once his internet improved or whatever, but I think that was the extent of it. I mean, the files were not even a quarter of a gig, they were very simple, but I found that easy for me to post-process if we needed to.
And you guys originally envisioned like doing like a season, like a TV show, right? You do them in seasons.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit about that.
Like I said, I didn't want to project too far into the future because it's just life, and I just didn't want for me to go, wow, is this going to be a 10-year thing, a 2-year thing? Let's just take it, one step at a time. So I think the first season we did like 30 episodes, which doesn't seem like a lot, but with life, it's like, okay, when am I going to, we'll record it and then I got to edit it later on. So like early up, I don't know if people could go to Podbean even that far back. You're like, oh, episode 111. I mean, that's actually episode 11 of season 1. And then you're like, 201 is season 2. You're like, well, we didn't do 201 episodes. So I think between me and him, we did like 66 to 67 shows. And you guys have done probably like 300 to 400 between the regular episodes and your album tracks,
right?
And then special editions. And I mean, see, I look at you guys as Two Legs 2.0, and I don't regret leaving the show. I come with content and pride that the show keeps going, and you guys put so much work into it. And that makes me proud because it's like, okay, I had my hand into something so small at the time, sort of embryonic. And then, yeah, you guys are interviewing the best of the best, and
but I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for you. So,
no, I appreciate that, and the show would not have become what it was if I did not leave, So I knew like I didn't want to go that deep for me. I had other stuff going on, and I thought Tom was going to maybe take it to a different kind of show, and I was going to help him actually engineer it, But he found you, and that was the greatest thing for the show.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. No, we just figured out like he was really determined. He wanted to keep something fresh. He wanted to keep it current. He wanted to keep it relevant, and not be one of these kind of fly by night. They're here today and gone tomorrow shows. And I give all the credit in the world to Tom for that because he's the one who's like, this is what we're going to do. This is who we're going to interview, and his motivation and his drive was like contagious. Like you could feed off of it because he was so determined to wanting to do this, and that gets that gets me excited. Motivated to okay, let's do our homework, let's do it, and let's stay fresh. And obviously, we benefited. I hate to say that word. We benefited with the pandemic because I had joined before that, but. That's kind of when we came into our own, and everybody else started doing shows then. But I think Tom and I kind of found our groove sometime in 2020 there, mid 2020, end of 2020 into 2021. We started doing the live things, and we started, got back, and kind of really, it took us about, I joined in
October 2019.
October of 2019, right? So, yeah, that was really before the world ended, and it was, I think we might have done Skype, or I forget initially how we did it, but it takes a while to develop.
Get into
chemistry.
That kind of
the chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, he found an equal partner. I mean, he found someone just like him, and you guys made that show so much grander. Or you guys had the same vision. Thank you for that. Which is nice. You're saying that, but again, I wouldn't be here if you guys didn't start it. So yeah, and I'm happy Tom. He always admired Ken Michaels. And I go, man, I'm just texting him like, man, it'd be interesting if you were co-host, and he was your, equal or, co-partner. And sure shit enough, he lands the gig with Talk More Talk in 2018. And I
2 years after.
Two years after. I mean, if you listen to one of our first couple shows, it's just hilarious how wet behind the ears we were, And I don't think Tom would ever want to listen to those shows anymore. I have them all. I have them all archived on DVD. I just took them off my hard drive, burned them. So I'd have to listen to them one day and go, "Wow, we were."
Would
really
you want
young.
to?
I wouldn't mind just hear the curiosity of hear Tom's arc as a podcaster. Because I think the more you do it, the more you grow, the more you know what to say or how to propose the question. It's a rhythm. It's like any band that starts out, writes demos, or their first album.
It is. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I like to think that that's where we're at now. But we just, sticking to what we wanted to do is just we want to be, as current as we can and have, yes, we have shows just about every week. We do take the first weekend of the month off. But, I always we have quantity, but we always want it to be quality. We don't want to. And listen, have we had some clunker shows? I'm not going to sit here and say we have. We haven't. We have. I'm sure we have. If you go back and watch them, it wasn't a great episode, or maybe I didn't like that guy. We've every one of them has been a winner.
I mean, you guys are pretty much a weekly show, and I think that was the original vision. And you want to be on top of any kind of breaking news or kind of whatever news in general in the McCartney world. It's almost like you guys are columnists on YouTube, you guys.
So that's the thing. We use the medium of YouTube to be the podcast. I have met people in Chicago saying, there's another YouTuber. I don't really consider myself a YouTuber. We're using the medium to deliver it that way, and I think you would agree with this. We're not YouTube. We're podcasters, and we're just using the YouTube as the medium to get our message across.
You guys aren't doing clickbait titles, click-ons for views. And I don't know, do you play that game to gain more viewership? But then at the same time, you don't want to cheapen the integrity of what the show is about.
No.
And And so, like you said, you're using YouTube as the medium to get your voice out there. You guys are on Apple, Amazon, which is amazing. Like, wow, like my old show I helped create is on all these platforms, So, if it because it is an audio only broadcast out there as well.
And let me tell you, as you know, it was what a pain dealing with Apple to try to get it on Apple Podcasts. Do you remember that battle?
I tried to do YouTube, and that was a pain. And I remember, you guys are trying to get on Apple. I don't know what hoops you guys had to fly through, but
it was one of the first kind of challenges I had to do joining Tom for the audio was to get the artwork had to be a certain way and to be accepted on Apple Podcast, and it was it was a nightmare to try to do. But you guys, I know Tom's very keen, even though we use YouTube now and we reach a lot more people that way. Tom is really he loves checking out the audio numbers and seeing how the audio, because there's plenty of people that listen to Two Legs just through audio apps. I mean,
they're probably driving around or just doing stuff around the house. They just want to hear it. They don't have to see it.
And I have friends that listen to it that way. I mean, our Peter Doggett show on audio had over 1,000 downloads.
Oh,
so just awesome. Audio, which is really, really great. So that there is to your guys' original vision and plan to be a podcast. There's still plenty of people that enjoy it that way too.
Well, it's funny. I think one of the shows I did with you guys in maybe in 2020, people are like, "Oh, is that what he looks like?" Or like had no idea, because I think I had my picture taken a couple times on the Facebook stuff during my tenure, but it was like, oh, the face and the voice are together now. But
yeah,
I don't have an issue much anymore being on video, but because it's not my show anymore, so it's like, hey,
right.
I don't have to deal with that. But
yeah.
I mean, here you are, 4 years later.
Crazy.
You have eclipsed my tenure in terms of years, and
but in those 2 years, you guys did, I think you guys did 66 or 67 shows in a 2-year period with Your Way. I mean, so I mean, it's got the format down.
Yeah, I mean, I was the engineer basically in the color commentary, and Tom was the go-getter for the interviews.
Still is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it used to be like, hey, just you and I pick a topic and we'll talk with it. He's like, well, I'm going to get Kid on. I'm going to get whomever on. I was like, sweet, But it for me, it kind of became tough from working and dealing with schedules. I was very kind of strict on, like, Sunday nights are perfect for me. But it is what it is. And, I don't regret leaving. I'm happy how the show has projected, in the last 4 years out. So it's always an honor when I became friends with you, through our group chat.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, my replacement. There was no animosity.
No.
I couldn't have been happier because for Tom, like, he got what he want and an equal partner and a vision.
And you got what you want, and you needed to scale back. So you both were able to do what you want. And I rely on that. Like I told you in the text, you're once the news hits, you're going to tell me, because I'm not going to scour the internet for hours.
Yeah.
As soon as David knows and tells us, then I know it's for real.
I have a lot of downtime at work, I mean, I have opportunity to, to lurk, but, and only am happy to bring that new, like, hey, there's something breaking,
Yeah, when I see that, you're like, oh, here's another week of nothingness, or I see the text and I laugh my ass off. I'm like, there's David scouring and seeing what we can find, what little nibbles and cookies of information we can find out there.
Yeah, so I went from a podcaster to a lurker, so I'm not, that's all right.
Yeah. So let's switch gears and talk some music stuff. We're going to go outside of the Beatles too. We did have a plan, David and I, and we have not abandoned it either. We were going to do a little bit of an offshoot series on the Who, which we're still going to. We have not forgotten about it. We are going to do it. I know we did one or two episodes on the. I think we did one, maybe two.
Yeah, February.
And it kind of ties in nicely now because this past Friday, the 15th, saw the release of the Super Deluxe finally edition of Who's Next / what they're calling it now, Lifehouse. Mega Super Deluxe Edition for all kinds of iterations on vinyl. But yeah, as two Mega Who fans, we're very happy that this has been dropped. And Who's Next, man? Tell me about it.
I mean, that's the Who at their peak, there's so much to say. I'm looking at the summary of what's in the box set. You know, you get the remastered CD, you get the Lifehouse demos, a little bit more than that came out in 2000 on Pete Townshend's website. You get
Which didn't you buy that?
Not at the time.
Oh no, you got that.
I got it later. I got it just a couple years ago because I'm like, it was somewhat obtainable.
The Chronicles, the Lifehouse, the full set, right? You got.
Yeah. So there's like the radio play, then you have the couple CDs of demos. I remember it's one of the first box sets that really came out. I think it came out in 2000.
Yeah.
And being 16, I'm like, I can't touch that price. It might have been not even $150 at the time, but it's a lot of money back then. But yeah, I mean, you get the more record plant sessions, you get the Olympic sound sessions. I love this. I love the last Who box that you get more singles and sessions stuff.
Yes.
That doesn't tie to the album. They're almost kind of like the B-sides and then you get two full concerts. Live at the Young Vic and at the Civic Auditorium in San Fran.
And that's like the one that everybody on Hoffman, I don't know if you saw that. That's the one they're going gaga over, the San Francisco Civic Auditorium show. Do you know? I mean, why was that show so in demand? Do you know?
I think only partially some of it got released, and you're always clamoring for the full concert. And then they are selling it on vinyl. I think that show. There's like a special vinyl box set.
Right, so the vinyl, there's like not one version of vinyl. Like you can't get the whole version you can't get the whole thing on vinyl this way, right? Isn't it broken up into different sets or something?
Yeah, you get the San Francisco gig and the Who's Next. That's a 4.
That's
vinyl.
one, but then there's another one, right, that has...
Then you get the standalone LP, and that's it. I think that's the only 2 iterations.
Oh, I thought there was a couple of the different ones that had like the Young Vic one and then the San Francisco stuff. No,
I'm just scrolling through.
The only thing I'm going to say that's a bummer about this is that the Steven Wilson remix
it's only on the Blu-ray.
Only on the Blu-ray. You did not get a CD.
I was hoping that it would be a remix on CD because we've had iterations of the Who's Next remastered throughout the years.
Oh yeah.
People are hoping that gets released separately, but for the sake of selling this box, that's going to be like the exclusive, I think. And I know you had just picked up the set recently, and so you'll be getting it soon. So I'd love to, hear your thoughts on.
Well, by the time this posts, I'll probably already have the unboxing done on my own channel. We're recording this on a Sunday. I should have it by Monday or Tuesday, so there'll be an unboxing on my channel for it. But ripping that Blu-ray audio would be a must.
But you're getting 14 additional tracks on that Blu-ray.
What are you getting? You have it right there?
Yeah. So you're getting The Seeker, the unedited version, Here for More, Now I'm a Farmer, I Don't Know Myself, the LP sound version, Water, which is the IBC version,
okay.
The Naked Eye, the Olympic sound version, Pure and Easy, Too Much of Anything, Let's See Action, When I Was a Boy, Join Together, the unedited version, Put the Money Down, Relay, the unedited version, and Long Live Rock.
So I've listened to this streaming, Chris, since it came out on Friday, and my initial takeaway is they've really remixed some of those tracks, like the Join Together. I don't know if you've listened yet, but if you check it out on streaming, you're hearing like different isolation vocals and stuff. You're hearing like there's like single track Daltrey on Bargain, which sounds awesome. Really, The Seeker. What else? Join Together sounds very different. The Relay, Let's See Action. This period of The Who between 71 and 73 is my favorite period for the band. I don't know if you would agree.
Absolutely. Because there's so much stuff from Pete, he's like, well, okay, he's trying to go like to the next step from Tommy and build this Lifehouse kind of concept album. And not sure if it's in books and the stuff that's included in the set, and it just never worked out. So he gave some of those tracks to the band, and I think it works better. I mean, I would not have wanted the Who's Next to be another Tommy or Quadrophenia, because I don't think it would have been as powerful, maybe.
You mean in terms of being like a full-on, theme, a concept album?
Yeah, I think Who's Next works better as an anthemic kind of album. I think this is like the transformation of a further transformation or elevation of Roger being that rock god.
Yeah, and becoming like the stadium rock band that they became. And a lot
Yeah.
of people, there's a friend of the show and a friend of ours that we know well, Ethan Alexanian, who's another Who fan, but Ethan really likes the 60s Who.
I get it. It's almost like people like early Pink Floyd, the Sid Barrett.
The Sid Barrett year, yeah.
Because it has that swinging 60s era. And I get it. The Who were like mods, you know,
Yes.
like they had that attitude, the clothing, the dress. Then they stripped that away and they almost became like, I'm a bigger Who fan than Led Zeppelin, but like,
Yeah.
but it elevated the Who to be the arena rock band that they're known for today, you know. And I'm okay after the Who, it goes into Quadrophenia because it goes deeper into Pete Townshend's.
Pete. Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing, you know. And then it went into like, you know, the albums after that. But
his period. What I was amazed, and I've been a Who fan almost the same time I've been a Beatles fan. What's amazing is finally hearing Pete's demos, which I didn't hear the Scoop stuff till maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
To hear how complete his demos are, they're already like done. He's just giving to the band saying, just
Put
play
your
it
touch
better.
on it.
Like,
yeah.
the drums, the bass, like everything is spot on. It's not like a traditional demo. These are fleshed out.
Completed songs. Yeah.
So it's not like he's just telling, you know, Keith Moon, you do your Keith Moon thing. John, you do your, you know, bass and brass stuff, and Roger, sing the hell out of it. But
I mean, just knowing how
incredible.
that band was, I don't think they would have gotten as far, you know. I mean,
No.
those Keith is Keith, and John was doing John, and maybe Roger could be stubborn, and I think Pete kind of pushed him along with the stuff, you know. But Roger was his voice box for Pete's vision. I love Pete's voice, but I'll never say he could have got through the Who without Roger, you know. But I just love his voice. But
Well, they complement each other well.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of times where, like, when songs where they share verses or lyrics is phenomenal. Like a song like Bargain, a song like The Song Is Over. You know, when they both share it, man, it's great.
so I haven't gotten the box set. It's kind of a price point thing, and I'm also waiting for the Beatleverse to unleash whatever it does in quarter 4, you know. So
And we are in quarter 4, folks.
we are well
Oh, I
into
said
it.
that word. Damn it.
So if I'm not so gung-ho about purchasing all whatever gets released, then I'll consider this box set. I was waiting for it to drop a little bit more.
You
but-
think it will? I mean, are we at a point with these box sets where, like, they're out? But then sometimes, like you said, when you texted me, like the sellout,
sells out?
It dropped, right? Did it?
It's
did
like
it drop?
$70 now, you know. It was like $150
2
I'm
years
like-
ago. Yeah.
And I was like, I think I got that as a gift, but I just felt bad. I'm like, man, they really they discounted it. And I don't see it going in half, but I think it might drop a little more. Once the
I mean,
holiday
it's
sits
the
around.
most comprehensive one that
yeah,
they've
there are
released.
11 discs, by the way. You know,
I mean,
Who Sells Out only had six
CDs. Quadrophenia has 4, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 with a 5.1. I mean, there's not yet 4 or 5 discs, maybe 6.
I'll
There's
tell you,
not- Yeah, go ahead.
I got really disappointed in the Quadrophenia thing in 2011 because they didn't release the full album on Blu-ray. They just had like 5 tracks.
Yes.
I got initially the 2 disc with some of the demos. So
On
the
disc 2, yeah.
Some of the box set has like the 2 complete CDs of demos. But you almost feel like, are they going to swing around again and touch upon that?
I think they jumped the gun too early with Quadrophenia. They could have probably done a much better job with that now.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, 2011, like, we're going to have a director's cut. It just didn't, the timing seemed wrong for that.
yeah, but it was a nice selling point for their 2012 tour.
Yes.
It kind of led up to that, and that was a great tour. By the way.
That was awesome. Bellboy, playing the Bellboy on the video screen. That was just great.
So, but I mean, swinging back to the Beatle world or
Yeah.
the McCartney world, man. I mean, we would just die if we had like 11 disc McCartney, you know,
Right.
whatever.
Now think about that. We're just talking about bang for buck right now. 200, whatever it's going for, $250 now.
Yeah.
Now, you know, that's that's 11 discs. You're paying that same price or more with McCartney for less discs in a lot of cases.
We haven't had the floodgates open in terms of outtakes and different. We've had different mixes, but like, I don't know. I mean,
like a true outtake. Like, let me hear like a demo of Jet from 1973.
Oh God!
Can we hear a demo of Jet, please? Like as a band in progress working on Jet, things like that. Let's hear that.
If you did this era box set, 71 to 73 with 10 disc of like outtakes, I'd pay double than what I paid for.
Yes,
yeah,
true outtakes. Like let's hear a real outtake of the backseat of my car from New York.
And I almost think Band on the Run has that shit. And I get it. He lost his cassette, but damn well that was a copy of the whatever he was tracking on his 4-track. I'll take just like pull out the master and give me the stems of whatever those songs are.
Just the stems.
Because when they did McCartney 3-2-1, he's at the border with Rick Rubin and they're pulling the faders up and down and you're hearing stuff. You're like, that's an interesting mix of Band on the Run, So like that was the McCartney archive is more like a comprehensive, like here's books and memorabilia and here's some mixes or versions. But I want to hear Band on the Run take one to the master,
Right. And I think China, until we opened up with, I do think we'll see that. We're going to see Band on the Run celebrated at the end of this year somehow in some mega thing.
Interesting thing is like, McCartney and Harrison or what star, they're all susceptible to the copyright 50-year, thing as well as the Beatles did, unless they're something legality wise, they're getting around that. But if there's outtakes of Band on the Run and then somehow finds it on the market in the public domain, it's anyone's,
Yeah, but I think they changed those laws. I think they especially because I don't think like the Beatles stuff, even though like the stuff that's over 50 years old, it's not in public domain. They obviously renewed whatever licensing they had to keep it protected. I know that it's not like Love Me Do is can be played by anybody. I mean, they still own that.
Yeah. So
or Sony does or whoever.
Have I ever showed you? Let me try to find it.
Love the A's for Apple books on those shelves.
Oh, they're beautiful. I can't find it. Oh, here we go.
What do we got?
So remember this came out?
Oh, yes.
This came out in December of 2013 as an iTunes only.
Correct. The copyright dump. Yeah.
Yeah. So someone in the world of whatever record label just put this out on vinyl and 2 CD.
That's crazy. Is that sealed or?
It's just the cover, but.
So they put those 1963 recordings on vinyl.
Oh yeah. Like, come on, Apple! I will buy this again just to fund you guys to do.
Can you show us? Can we see one?
Yeah.
Because I don't even think you can get that anymore, David. Right?
You might be able to go on iTunes, which is like $36, but like,
and buy it. Okay, yeah, there it is.
I mean, there's 3 vinyl.
Look at that,
slaps.
man. That is not a real release, but it looks like it's real. I mean, look at that. Look at the quality. They've come such a long way, haven't they?
I mean, I'm not, promoting it, but if it's out there, but like, and then they put the CDs in here, like.
Oh, it was the CD. You got CDs and vinyl in that set.
Yeah, same thing. It's like, I'll buy this again, Apple, if you just put it out there just to show my fate that, like, I'll buy your stuff.
I'll buy your stuff.
I mean, I still buy their stuff, but like. Yeah.
Was that an eBay thing, David, or you found it through other ways?
Yeah, because Discogs would block it. It might have been eBay.
Yeah.
So
Discogs blocked that stuff, but
I'm just saying, like, come on, like,
that's a great set. I mean, I do remember that dropping on iTunes at the time, thinking, oh, here's all these songs from '63. You got to grab them, Pretty cool.
But the Who set looks amazing. I mean.
Yeah.
Pete had been talking about it for years, going through the multi-tracks, and the thing is, like, some of the stuff, the majority of the stuff is on his the Chronicles, but they're different mixes, so you might hear different levels of vocals, or might hear stuff that wasn't up front in the 2000 release. But
That's the most interesting thing you hear. You hear some of these, the separation of the vocals and how clear it is. So that there's always something new and exciting to get. And I can't wait till it arrives from the postman one day this week. But it'll already be in my hands by the time this video is posted. So and we will continue our Who show at some point in the future. Hang in there if you did watch it on my own channel, but we will do that, and we're only going to go through the Who albums, so we will get back to it. And that's
but they don't have that many albums, 12.
No,
maybe 13.
They don't have a lot at all. So
we'll include Live with Leeds, Live at Leeds. So
we will get there. So transitioning back to McCartney, let's as we wind down, let's talk about some favorite period lineups of Paul and the people that he's played with. Wings, 80s man, 90s man. Heck, maybe even some of those people that he played with there in the mid 80s, like Dave Edmunds. What's some of your favorite kind of iterations of the people that Paul has played with, Wings or otherwise?
Well, I mean, for me, from personal experience seeing him, it'd be the current lineup from 2002 to now.
The current lineup, yeah.
And even a couple of the guys in Driving Range sessions. So you got Rusty and Abe. I mean, that guy is such a teddy bear. That guy is like, I hope you guys get him on the show one day, because, I mean, that guy is such a teddy bear. That guy is the soul of, like, that band in terms of just the enthusiasm, his joy of playing. I mean, it sounds like he looks like it's his first day on the job, and
he's been drumming with Paul for
21 years, 22. Years. I mean, he was on the Driving Range sessions,
right?
And he comes from a rich background. His dad is a bass player, led in an A-Lip Boreal. I mean, man, I mean that guy is like Ringo Starr with balls of steel now. Like, from a sound perspective, I mean, like, you hear some of those Beatles songs, it's like, wow. I mean, they're not heavy, but it's like the powerfulness of it. And
you bring up a really good point with this choice, because I know a lot of our viewers have said that, why don't you guys just do a show on Paul's current band that he's played with longer than anybody else he's played in his life? And I'm kind of glad you said those, because we love Wings and all their lineups, and obviously the 80s and 90s, but it's nice to see that there's some respect and love for the people that he works with now.
You got Brian Ray, who played with the great Etta James in the 70s. I mean, he's around 68 years old.
That's the thing too. Everybody thinks that, like, Paul plays with these kids. Now, we know Paul.
Well, they were kids about 22 years ago. I mean,
but these guys aren't any spring chickens either now.
No, these guys are their 60s.
60s. They got to be in their 60s.
Abe, I think, is like 53. I think when he got a hold of Paul, he might have been like 29 or 30 at the time.
Think about that. You start drumming for Paul McCartney when you're like 30 years old, right? And now here you are 22 years later.
Yeah.
It's slightly wild.
And those guys, we know Paul's voice is, for an 81-year-old, not bad, but he's 81. I mean, those guys lift him up when he needs it, and they're great vocalists. I think that's why he picked them, because he heard what they could do vocally. And I loved your episode when you guys interviewed Gabe Dixon, because I thought he was going to be on the tour, when you're doing the concert for New York, and that guy, I think he was in his early 20s at that time, and was always curious about what happened to him or where he went. But very,
very accomplished musician on his own right.
So Paul, through David Kahn, was instrumental in terms of this current lineup. I like it because it's his current band, but they've played so many Beatles songs or Wings songs during that. That's his, he hasn't played with anyone that long in his entire life.
They push him too. Like they're the ones that the reason I think that we're hearing the last 10 years or so some of the more we've heard like Wing songs, like Letting Go and Listen to What the Man Said. I think it's because we really owe a credit to them, because I think they pushed him to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that's the greatest lineup, because I think you can't touch the 76 lineup. I mean, that is such a classic era. For me, the current lineup's my favorite, but from a historical standpoint of Paul McCartney, Wings solo artist, I think that is the classic Joe English, Jimmy McCall, Denny Lane, Linda.
How many times have you seen Paul?
02, I think 7, 02, 05, 05, 11, 15. 7 times.
Wow. And the most recent time being 2017?
17. Yeah, he hadn't been to Detroit since October 1st and 2nd, 2017. And that was a really weird time because things that happened between those two shows I saw him. We found out Tom Petty.
Oh, yeah.
His DJ was playing some Tom Petty songs on the October 2nd show. And that was just so weird. You hear like, what happened to Tom Petty? What, and then he just passed, I think, that day. So it was just a really weird. And then it kind of, you're watching a legend like McCartney, like, okay, life's short, let's, absorb it, take it in. And
you have to. It's so short and so precious. And wow, what a moment that must have been at that time, realizing that happened. You got, I know you're a big concert goer, like I am too. Do you got any big shows coming up in the next few months that you're going to?
Big shows? I stopped doing, I still try to go to big shows if I can.
Well, I don't mean like,
but
you know what I mean.
Coming. So I'm seeing Ringo probably for the 14th time in October.
You are going to go see Ringo? Okay.
Yeah, I did it because I got the ticket at face value at the box office, and I do it because I enjoy who he plays with. I love to see him just do a solo gig, but that's not who he is. Like he said, he likes being a band, so he's like, hey, I'll play drums on your song. I don't care, Mm-hmm. He's 83. I thought when I saw him in 2019 in Windsor, Ontario, because that was kicking off the 30th anniversary celebration tour, he was 79. I'm like, okay. And then 4 years later, I can't imagine him touring at 87, going 4 years out.
He don't look it, though. He does not look like he's 83.
No. The guy has energy that an 83-year-old you typically wouldn't think would have energy. But the guy has a good diet. The guy, I think, like, say what you want personally. But he projects, I think, youth and energy as much as he can. He's living the dream. He just enjoys life at his house in L.A., writing songs. I don't buy anymore, but that doesn't. No. But I think just being active.
If that's working for him, then God bless him.
Well, yeah, if it makes him live, and that's something to wake up to. Like, okay, I got some work to do, and more power to him.
I think to kind of continue the Ringo tangent thing, I think, and I know your cousin and our co-host, let's have a little bit of a retrospective dive into Ringo's solo career. Like, let's not throwing EPs at us, but how about like a little bit of a box set of your Apple years, or let's get that 50th Ringo. Let's celebrate some of that. His best period of where he was the most commercially successful. Yeah. 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. Those years, Ringo was really on top of the pop world.
John was kind of jealous. He's like, man, yep. I don't know where the rumors start about the 50th, anniversary of Ringo, but
Tom and I were told that was a done deal. Yeah. By some friends of ours.
So maybe it got delayed. I'd still hope that is a releasable commercial kind of release. I have stuff out there that I bought because I'm just like, I'm sick of waiting. But
because that's when the anniversary thing kind of goes out the window. Then, like Revolver, we get Revolver like
56 years later.
Yeah, like you want to get Pepper was great. Like, did the pandemic throw everything off? Maybe, but there's no rhyme or reason for these. Like, they want to tie it into an anniversary, fine, but then it doesn't really make any sense. Like Elton John released a 40th anniversary of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road in 20. Oh, what do I forget?
15-ish?
Yeah, something like that. So there was no rhyme or reason to that. So there's not any rhyme or reason to these now, so maybe it comes out in 2024 with Ringo. Who knows?
But I think the Pepper 50th was the first time they actually acknowledged, other side from like the 30th anniversary of Abbey Road being released again, but in '98. But I think the 2017 is like the first that they're like celebrating an anniversary.
Yes,
and
they did with Pepper
and White Album,
with Pepper, White Album, and Abbey Road, and then that was it.
And then of course the pandemic, but it kind of makes sense that the Get Back, Let It Be stuff would kind of get pushed out because that album always got sidetracked. And,
that's a good point.
It's like, okay, we recorded early '69, but releasing it like May of '70. Okay, that makes sense.
So we'll just do the same thing 50-something years later.
And I don't know if you want to go more into like, have you heard about chatter about this or that? But like, there's supposedly, I'm hearing chatter about like they're finally releasing Let It Be on Blu-ray with some of the extras that Peter Jackson did interview the police guys, and there might be an intro with Michael and
Michael Lindsay Hogg.
Yeah,
if you don't follow along,
yeah. So
you've read that there is that maybe in the works too.
Maybe in the works, but
Would
take that
Peter
with a grain
Jackson,
of salt.
So like, but would it be Michael's thing or would it be Peter's
I think it'd be
thing?
like Peter's kind of his edit. So you might get the smoothing that you saw in Get Back
on Michael's film, and they're both very respectful of their two different projects. As we said, Peter thinks his thing is like a sequel to what Michael did, which is cool.
But you might get the Peter Jackson production on that. But then I'm curious about the one that never got released in 2003 that was supposed to be like a 2-disc.
Yes.
So we'll see.
We shall see. It's going to be interesting because I think Get Back has restored what that period is to people. So let the original film stand out on its own.
And it should. I mean, it's not that bad of a film. I own it on various medias, but
yeah. United Artists put it out on VHS, I think, for a while.
Laserdisc version, but I have that on like bootleg Blu-ray stuff. But like that was the cut that came out. I mean, that's just the way it was. People weren't going to delete the Let It Be album when Let It Be Naked came out.
No, you can't cancel culture that as much as with the world we're in now, and I understand that, respect it, but you can't do that to that.
So I mean. Yeah, there's no extras on the Get Back stuff, but then again, the pandemic gave you the extras of 6 additional hours, and so like it was supposed to be just a theatric film release 2.5 hours.
Right, and then they made it 8.
Which I would have felt the same way I felt about Living the Material World documentary as well as 8 Days a Week. Kind of like, okay, I've seen it, but I underwhelmed a bit. So, yeah, I'm glad it did I'm glad it kind of got released the way it did, kind of like anthology-esque.
Very much so, yeah. Cool. So I've got 2 concerts upcoming in this fall. I've got Steve Hackett I'm going to see in October in New York, the Genesis original guitarist during the Peter Gabriel era. And then in November, I'm going to see Bob Dylan.
Nice.
So
how many times have you seen Bob?
Just twice.
Okay. I haven't seen him.
At all?
At all.
Yeah,
Maybe I should. Maybe I should.
I think you should
he's getting up there, but
to go see him. And if he's coming to your area, I would go. It's doing mostly his new album, 3 years old now, Rough and Rowdy Ways, which is good. It's an experience. Fortunately, I'm going to see him up close with a friend of mine. So,
nice.
I only really became a Dylan fan really in the last 3 years, 4 years, a casual fan. But then I spent most of the pandemic down the rabbit hole learning his stuff. So again, what you do.
I mean, I think I'd be broke with all his releases, which I'm like, God, I wish. Yeah, some of my favorite bands did those kind of releases.
Right now, here's something the bootleg series. Like if they followed what he does, man, would you have everything? If Paul, think about it. If Paul followed Bob's lead with that, forget about it.
Can you imagine being a Bob Dylan and Neil Young fan? I think, it's just like a plethora of all releases. But I need you to maybe convince me, is it worthwhile? Should I see Peter Gabriel? I think he's coming next weekend or 2 weeks.
I would go see him.
Because there's actually, here's my issue, not seeing too many big bands anymore that I missed out or have seen years ago. I'm not paying some of those prices, but I saw Upper Level at the Little Caesars Arena, $50. That's fine. That's a good, hey, I'm curious.
Yes.
Even Lower Level was $75.
That's not bad.
Main floor is kind of like $250. These are like McCartney non-VIP prices. I'm just like, that's fine, So he's coming next a week and a half. So there's Tony Levin on bass from the great King Crimson.
Crimson, Tony Levin, bassist on Double Fantasy, and to connect it to your Beatle people.
I'm almost. Maybe I'll just walk up to the box office and get a ticket because it's not sold out and they're somewhat affordable. Now I have an issue with the Eagles, and Like I saw them in '03 at the Palace of Auburn Hills for $75 off the main floor in the back, straight ahead, perfect. It's like $175 before fees for like the last row on the upper level, and I can't do that. You know, like they're
$170 without fees
without
for the top of the top. No,
yeah, no, and I think they're trying to fight off the secondary market. You know, StubHub. And they're doing a good job at it. But I'm like, oh, God. Like, I saw him already with Glenn Fry, you know. So, but I saw the Peter Gabriel tickets, like, ooh.
Go.
I'm not a big Peter Gabriel fan, but I know some of those songs, just like,
he knows how to put on a show, you know. And because he doesn't tour, and I got to meet him last fall.
Oh, nice. I don't know the last time he really did a big tour. I'm not a big follower of his.
I want to say... Well, he did a tour with Sting about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And before that, it would be, a long time before. He doesn't tour that often. And he pumps, he's very slow with his work schedule. So if you have a chance to go and it's a reasonable ticket, just go to say you saw him,
Yeah.
But and check for Dylan, too, because I'm sure he's coming your way. And maybe you can find a decent price ticket there.
Yeah, hopefully it comes to like the Fox Theater in Detroit. It's a smaller theater.
He only plays the smaller theaters. He's not going to play a big arena. He's not going to play He's not going to play a 20,000.
I guess I could appreciate that, or maybe that's what the market's dictating. But
yeah, I mean, I think I'm seeing him for $200, and I think I'm in the 9th row.
Oh, yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad at all. So, I think that's going to wrap it up. Is there anything else you'd like to share here with the Two Legs audiences here, and for episode 222?
222. I mean, can you imagine if Tom was on here? We'd beat all 2 2s,
Which I think is funny because that's the record that we both got as the white label promo in the 7-inch box singles thing. Tom and I both got that same one.
Who would have thought? Yeah.
Did you get that too or no?
No, I passed on that.
You did pass. Okay, I thought you might have grabbed that one.
I passed on the Beatles single set in 2019 after the Abbey Road release, and I passed on that. But
the single, the blue singles box one, yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
So,
but no, again, thank you for inviting me on, filling in for the great Tom Hunyadi.
No problem, David. Thank you for filling in here for your cousin and your original co-host. And like I said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be sitting here. So I would like to thank you for coming up with this idea to do a show all those years ago, as the song goes, with your cousin, and happy to have you back on anytime there's anything relevant, and you and I we'll geek out with our progressive rock and classic rock stuff.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Two Legs. We will see you next week, and I think Tom will be back, and we will have more stuff in the fire, more guests. We're going to get to that other George Harrison deep dive with Owen Ling. That's in the cards as well. More authors, stuff with just Tom and I. So we have plenty to go in the pipeline, and we look forward to seeing you then. So we will see you next time on Two Legs. So
have a great day and a beautiful night.
As the man says, see ya.
Listening to Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, hosted by Tom Hunyadi and Andy Nichols, with musical contributions by Deluxe.